known as Elise Main. I wanted to introduce you to this new segment that we're adding to the program called Uncomfortable Conversations. And it's fitting and needed during this time. And it will be something that will happen simultaneously with the regular show. With all that being said, this is going to be the very first segment, first episode in this series of shows called, once again, Uncomfortable Conversations. And our first conversation that we're going to dig deep into is race relations and how people of color have been feeling for decades and how we will approach what needs to be done right now in the world so we have justice and equality and what it looks like. And this particular first episode, I sit down with 13 or 14 men that I truly respect, men of color that I respect. They're fathers, they're entrepreneurs, educated men who all have had experiences as a man of color in this world and what it looks like and sounds like. I cannot speak for them. They can only speak for themselves. I just wanted to provide a safe space so these men can speak on what's going on and how they're feeling. This is part one, and I'll have multiple parts. And so with me during this particular show, you will see Antoine Fleming, Kareem Shon, Jason Phillips, Everett A, Jesse Fije, Ghost from the Ghost and Big G podcast, Anthony Bailey, Marlon Bub Randolph, Muqaddim Naseer, Terrel McMurray, Timothy Petey Williams, Kylon, Roosta, Ratcliff, Carlos Prudhomme. These men came together, and I truly appreciate them taking the time to sit down and speak on what it's like as a man of color right now, how they felt and how they're feeling about the recent injustices that's been happening with so many people. There's too many to name, but the recent, of course, is George Floyd and Aubrey and Breonna Taylor and just so many more. The young man who was killed by citizens, the young man who was accused in a park of harassment that never happened. So please enjoy. I hope you find it informative. I hope you find it entertaining. And I hope you walk away from this show with a little bit better understanding or relatability of what these men are going through. I respect them and I acknowledge them. I appreciate them for taking the time to sit with me. So please enjoy this first part. Men of color speak. Thank you. All right, welcome back to Shall You Proceed. This is a special segment called Uncomfortable Conversations. With everything going on in the world right now, I really wanted to sit down with my people, men of color, and ask them and ask many people, how does this feel? What are you going through mentally, emotionally, with all that's going on? And every day is something brand new. And I knew that I wanted to talk to Black men separately to get their insight on what needs to be done and how they're feeling. I want to welcome all of my guests who've been here before, with the exception of a few of them. I have Mr. Kareem Shon, International Ream Podcast, Everett A, educator, principal, Timothy Williams, influencer, Jason Phillips, mental health specialist, Antoine Fleming, mental health specialist, Anthony Bailey, Red Pill Podcast and influencer, Marlon Bub Randolph, mental health specialist, Ghost from the Real Talk with Ghost and Big G podcast, Jesse Fije, podcaster and influencer, Muqaddim Naseer, entrepreneur and influencer, Carlos Prudhomme, my brother-in-law, an attorney of law in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Roosta Ratcliff, influencer and activist. Hello, everyone. You can say hi.
Hey.
What I want to ask all of you initially, I want to say first, thank you for coming. You can unmute yourselves when it's time to talk, but please mute yourself back when you're finished. What I want to say is thank you so much for coming on and speaking honestly and openly about what's going on. I know it must have been hard initially, but all of you are either fathers, husbands, you have sons, you have daughters, and it hits us real differently. And I want to ask you first, how did you feel when this all started unrolling weeks ago? Jason?
Well, I would say E into everybody. I just was like, not again. I mean, for me, this has been happening. We've seen it in the news. We've seen it in our neighborhoods. And when I saw, the incident with George Floyd and just so much has happened in the past couple of weeks, I was just exhausted. Like, not again. What's going to happen? I kind of felt like this was going to take a toll on us on a deeper level, especially with, where things are at. But that was the main thing. It's just like, what do we do now?
Antoine?
I was very baffled. And just I've been trying to wrap my mind around this for the past couple days and couple weeks. Being as I have a 7-month-old son, and I'm looking like, when it was just me in this world, I could be like, that'll never happen to me. I know what I'll do if this happened, that happened. But, I got a kid that's going to be growing up in this. And just like Jason, I just felt like, damn, not again, but here we go again. And the callousness, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but the callousness of the act really, I'm stuck in a place where I'm almost speechless. I can't believe this is happening.
Bub?
So initially it was rage. Much like Twan, I have a 17-year-old son and an 18-month-old grandson. So the first thing I could think was just about him, and now that he's driving, and just all those other situations that happened over the past several years of innocent, unarmed Black men being brutalized and murdered. The first thing I thought was my son, and then the second was just rage, just rage. And at some point, this has to end. It has to stop. And will this be the straw that broke the camel's back? I think those were the first things that came to my mind as all the news feeds were, being presented.
Carlos, Mr. Prudhomme. I think I lost Carlos. Everett.
So similar to what everybody said, I think we all were kind of just thinking like, not again, and more or less, when is this going to stop? Because, you know that this is repetitively happening, and it's, to a point in today's society where it's getting caught on tape over and over and over again. The evidence and everything is right in front of you, and the world is watching it. And so, you start feeling the anger, you start feeling the rage. I have a 9-year-old son, a 6-year-old daughter. And so thinking about how that hits home, and as a father, living out those situations and what to, train up my children in to avoid those types of situations. Can it be avoided? But then thinking also as a principal for a school of 700 kids, how am I to continue leading and start changing up practices in the school system when this type of situations are happening? We got one thing in the curriculum that talks about the communities and being together, but then the neighborhood is totally different. And how does this impact even just moving future? Like, what are the things those kids are going to have to go through as they go through life? And so, is this the moment where we finally hit that pressure point?
Carlos?
When I saw the video, I literally woke up in the morning picked up my phone, and the first thing I saw was this video about another black man getting killed by the police. And I didn't even have time to be angry at the time. I mean, I was just so tired because it was yet again somebody who looks like me, looks like my son, looks like these young boys I represent in court, the young men I teach in my classroom. Here it is again. And had just gotten over the fact that my wife, my mother-in-law were concerned about me just running in my neighborhood. So, I mean, I was exhausted. That exhaustion turned into anger a few days later, and then almost a hope with seeing how people are pulling together and protesting and standing up and trying to make a difference. So, I mean, I've had a run of emotions for the last few weeks, but the one that stuck out the most for me was just the exhaustion of having to see it again. And you know, it makes me tired, makes me concerned, because my son's only 7, but just to even have that tough conversation with him at 7, because, you know, I'm a big news watcher. So if he comes in, I'm watching the news, or if my wife is trying to explain something to him, what she tried to do, and he got tears in his eyes. He couldn't understand why this man was dead. I mean, his little mind just couldn't comprehend that, but that's the world that I'm having to prepare him for. So for me, it's just been sheer exhaustion coupled with lots of other emotions.
Reem?
You know, I don't really know where to start. Like these other brothers, I have sons. You know, one of them is 16 and he got his little driver's license or whatever. You know, so he doesn't have his own car, but he's out in the world. You know, he has access to his mother's vehicle, and I'm at a point where I gotta let go and trust him, right? And a lot of the times we say, you know, we trust you, we don't trust everybody driving on the road, right? As an excuse to not give him the keys or whatever. But now it's like, I still gotta put that trust in you, and now I gotta trust that you believe in what I say. You know what I mean? My other son is 9, you know, so he's very guarded from the current situation right now. Like everybody else, I felt like, you know, damn, again, you know, we're gonna do this again. There's so many names that we can name, man. My attitude truly changed after the Trayvon Martin case. You know, my background is very you know, neighborhood, to keep it light. I'm from the fuck the police era. I've had trouble with police running up on me when I was a kid in New York for unexplained reasons that didn't make sense. And it wasn't nothing that, you know, my mom could have done with that situation that I was in. A lot of the times we feel like, you know, once these situations happen, what can we do? And we pray, we hope that at least we can get some type of revenge or level out the playing field, or what they call justice, which we don't see much of.
Right.
You know, we pray like that's the last thing, like at least we could get this, right? And we don't get it. We don't get it at all. And the times that, you know, these people do go to jail, like the white lady who shot the young man in his police in his apartment in Dallas not too long ago.
Muqaddim Naseer, 2018.
Yeah. So, you know, we don't get too many of those stories where, you know, the cop, you know, sees the bars, right? And you know, I really think that this situation is a turning point for us. You know, never in my life did I ever think I would see Black Lives Matter and street yellow painted on the street, or End Racism Now painted on the street in North Carolina and these different places. Call me a little crazy, but, you know, with me being as spiritual as I am and believing in the things that I believe in, if God gave his only son to make the world right, then I feel like God might have manifested that again in our brother George Floyd. You know, no matter what religion, creed you have, everybody believes in a higher power. And my higher power is so dope that he can reach anybody, anywhere, through any language, whatever it may be. And now the world is celebrating the life and the change of a Black man. And I appreciate that for what it's worth.
Timothy. Unmute.
Well, when I first saw the video, I was actually on Twitter. And I'm not sure if y'all be on Twitter. Twitter is a wild place. And so when I first saw the video, there was a lot of commentary into it. And one of the things that stood out to me was the defiance in the officer's eyes as he kneeled on dude's neck, you know, and they was like, get off him, you know, he was just standing like, what you gonna do about it? Nothing. And I guess if I had a feeling, my feelings are more reserved for after the video itself. The video itself did not, and I don't want to sound callous or anything, but being a Black man, I'm 43, that's not an image that's new to me. You know, sad to say. So, not necessarily him getting killed, but just the level of brutality and XYZ. I grew up in the Reagan era and the three-strike era, where, you know, the militarization of the police department. So I didn't really have it's bad, but you know, I'm kind of like numb to it at this point because it's nothing shocking to me. My emotions are more towards after the effect. I'm saving my emotion for the trial. I don't want to sound callous, but I'm saving my emotion for the trial. You gotta pace yourself because it's gonna be a long
day.
Right. So, because if they do some Rodney King where see it on tape and it's like he's trying to get up, he's getting up, but he's getting up because he's trying to just get his bearing, and they did, you know, and they say he fought back, he got guilty. That's what I'm waiting for. So, rage. If I had a feeling, rage would be, I guess, the one.
Jesse. Has Jesse spoken?
Hey, I'm back in. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Did you already talk? You didn't talk yet, right? No?
Not yet, no.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, well, first, thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
Glad to be back. And so to answer your question, my first thoughts, I saw this on Sean King's Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh man, it was overwhelming because it's like you're watching it through a screen, you can't jump in and help. You feel helpless watching that. This is your brother, you know, who's being murdered right there on the street, and you cannot do anything about it. So yeah, I felt helpless watching that, which also enraged me quite a bit as well. I tried to, I guess, just shut it off, and then just kind of, you know, it sat with me, right? So I tried to eat after the fact, but I ended up breaking down, just crying. Like I couldn't hold it in. I don't cry much. It's been a long time since I've cried, and I'm usually pretty even kill my emotions. I'm pretty laid back. Nothing gets me too rattled or too, you know, emotionally disturbed. But that just totally, it got to me. It did, and tears started rolling down my face. I'm like, we back at it. And so also too, the irony is that, you know, and Reem and some of the others know that I created the whole "I Can't Breathe" T-shirt design. Well, I painted the "I Can't Breathe" design to support, you know, Eric Garner. You know, that happened way back in 2014. And I was just kind of like, I had about maybe 3 or 4 conversations with some friends of mine about bringing that shirt back, that design back, just because, you know. And of course, because of the times we were kind of living in. And this was only like maybe a few days even leading up to this event, not even knowing that this was about to transpire. And so it was just, the irony is just crazy. And lately I've been speaking a lot of things. It's like when I speak it, it pops up, it happens. It's just like, I don't know what it is, but it's like I'll speak it and here like a day later or right then and there, it just pops up and it's like, it's right in front of my face. So unfortunately, this was one of those things I did not really care to see, you know, manifest itself, but just I mean, it's been a blessing and a curse as well. Like I said, it's just I did not think we'd be back here again, and like I didn't think the shirt would be relevant again. I just wanted to put it back out there for people to support, and support the movement, the cause, and everything. Keep Eric Garner's memory alive, not knowing that we have a new face for the movement, the I Can't Breathe movement. So it's crazy. And also too, I've had to talk to my daughter about it. I don't have a son, but my daughter's 11 now, and so she now understands that maybe a routine traffic stop, and then her dad, dying, just a routine traffic stop. Something like that. So she's like, don't text her on your phone and drive. She's real
protective. Real protective, right?
Yeah, right. And so she understands, what's going on. And she thought, I had all these shirts still for Eric Garner. Like, this is what, I'm like, no, this happened again. We're back here again, unfortunately. So, but yeah, much like everybody else, a lot of rage, a lot of anger, frustration. And I didn't think it was going to like hit this hard though. Like, I didn't think it was going to hit as hard as the impact that it's having now, which I'm grateful for, which I feel like this time is going to be a lot different. I really do. And I felt that from the beginning. Like, it just feels different. I don't know. And I've said that, been vocal about that. It feels really different. I feel like there are going to be some changes, be it they come slow or, long term. I feel like there's going to be some changes made. And hopefully, we can get justice for him, for sure, first and foremost. And then from there, that started the trend, going forward in the future, for sure.
Anthony?
Well, man, you guys get me choked up. He's taking me back through my same emotions that I had. I didn't want to watch it when I first heard about it. I was like, damn, this is like snuff porn. Like, for people to watch us die in the street. It was too hard to swallow. I kind of want to even just stay away from the social media aspect of it. But the vibe was so different that I had to say, okay, I gotta watch it. And it affected me differently than I thought it would. Because a lot of times you can see certain aspects versus like, okay, I can see where it could have gone differently, but this one I didn't see that. I didn't see how it could have gone differently because it was just outright brutality at a level that I don't think anybody has been able to witness on camera. So it definitely affected me differently, and coming from the aspect that I used to be a correctional officer, and I've been in situations where I don't know if I'm gonna get out of this situation uninjured or unhurt, but I never felt like I had to do what this guy chose to do. So you can just see the evil in his eyes in that point. And people out, and when you got somebody outside of you begging for somebody else, how do you not respond to that? Your humanity is gone at that point. So there's no reforming you. You are who you are. He was a killer before he did that. So
absolutely,
he just had the opportunity to do it at that point. So that's what he wanted to do. So the conversations for me is hard. When it comes to talking to anybody outside my race, for someone to try to play devil's advocate, if you will, I don't have patience for that anymore. I will, at this point in time in my life, after seeing so much and just my own experiences and having family members being killed unnecessarily, I don't have the patience anymore to remain the same. And if you can remain the same after seeing this and going through this at this point in your life, nothing else can change you. So this is a point where if we don't come together as Black men and women and demand justice and demand change in this life, then we get what we deserve going forward. So that's how I felt in this one.
Ghost?
Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. You just can't sing, so.
So to answer your question, when I first saw the video, I think just like everyone else, my first emotion was shock. You know, again, we just going through COVID, and I'm like, damn, what else can go wrong? You know, seeing this type of video reminded me immediately of Eric Garner. So I couldn't believe it. I said, how are we going through this again? Then it went from anger to just an overwhelming feeling of just being mentally exhausted. I'm like, damn, here we go again. I'm just tired. And, you know, I'm from New York, you know, and I've seen this countless Sean Bell, you know, you see the Eric Garner. It's just like, you know, enough is enough. Enough is enough. That's you just tired of seeing it. And, you know, we've been I have a 12-year-old son. And when I see videos like this, the first thing I think of, you know, what would I do? You know, or if my family's in that situation, because I think we've all been kind of conditioned that, hey, look, if you comply, you'll be all right. If you don't resist, you'll be all right. So when I saw this, I'm like, well, what are you going to say now? What could you possibly use as an excuse this time? Because he's in handcuffs. He's laying down, he's face down, and people are telling you to stop. What's going to be the excuse? So seeing that, and then obviously seeing the result of it, I said, this is going to be a big deal. This is going to be a big deal because there's no excuse. There's no excuse this time. He's not reaching for anything. He's not running. He's not doing anything. What's going to be the excuse? So those were kind of like some of the emotions I had going through it. And, you know, obviously, you know, I think one of the other brothers mentioned, I felt horrible. You felt a huge sense of helplessness. Like I wanted to go, because I was watching it on the news, and you wanted these, like, you know, you couldn't help them. It was an awful feeling. But, you know, you're seeing the people, you know, people unite. And I think this is going to be, like someone said as well, you know, this is going to be the one that's going to make the change here. This is where we're going to see a difference, you know, based on this, you know, situation. And it was just awful. You know, those were kind of some of the emotions I had, you know, going through it.
Roosta.
First of all, appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
No problem.
You know, very gracious of you to have me here. You know, truly honored. As far as you know, question of what was my initial reaction, I only saw the first time that I watched it. I only saw like the first 3 minutes of it, and that was about all I could take. And it brought back memories of Eric Garner. And, you know, I was just, you know, at the time I was going through that whole, you know, we was going through that whole COVID thing, and I was making sure that I was right as far as my health was concerned. And so it was a situation where I was like, you know, okay, you're adding a little bit more, you're adding a little bit more. And I was like, man, okay, I can't, you know, I wasn't able to process it. But as time went on, you know, because I was going through somewhat of a scare, because I had a little bit of a cough going on. And so I was like, man, look, I can't wrap my mind around this right now. So, you know, let me just make sure I'm good. And then 2 days later, I watched the whole 8 minutes and 46 seconds of it. And I'm not gonna cuss, all right? I'm not gonna cuss. But you see a man on the ground basically saying, I can't breathe. He's calling for his mom. He's saying, I'm hurt. My neck is hurt. My back is hurt. My stomach is hurt. Everything hurts. And he's saying that they are killing me. They're trying to kill me. Somebody help me. For 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I was pissed. And it went from, you know, me being pissed to me feeling that me having a feeling of despair, because I've seen this, you know, this thing play out.
Nothing
we march, we pray, you know, we march, we pray, you know, maybe the cop goes to court, you know what I'm saying? In Eric Garner's case, the officer Daniel Pantaleo, they sent it to the grand jury, and you know, the grand jury was like, we're not gonna prosecute this, you know what I'm saying? And so you know, I was like, okay, so they're gonna play this game again. You know, this is gonna be like what, the umpteenth time. I mean, they started with you know, it started with Trayvon Martin. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't doing anything but walking home, you know, with a bag of Skittles and a can of tea, you know. But you know, George Zimmerman felt like, okay, well, you know, I don't give a damn. I'm gonna go ahead and accost this kid, hunt this kid, stalk this kid, you know, confront this kid, you know, get into an altercation with this kid, and you know, when he gets you know, as he's getting the upper hand on me, well, now I got to kill this kid, even though I've initiated whatever contact I've had with this kid. You know what I'm saying? And Trayvon Martin was in, you know, he was a senior in high school, had his whole life ahead of him. You know what I'm saying? And so now you got somebody like George Floyd, who was essentially turning his life around in Minnesota, you know, basically. And that in and of itself gets, you know, that gets snuffed out because this cop comes along and he's like, okay, nah, he's leaving today, basically. You know, I'm ending him today. And that's basically what the look on his face was. He was like, you know, I'm gonna do this, and you know, I know I have the power of the police union behind me. I know I have, you know, Bob Kroll, who is the police commissioner in Minnesota. I know I've got him behind me. You know, everything is gonna be hunky dory. You know, and to add to that, the same situation played out with another cop in Minnesota who had a different hue, different skin tone, Muhammad Noor.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He thought he had the backing of the police union, but of course, you know, he had the wrong paint job, so now he's doing 25 to life.
25.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, you know what I'm saying? So it was clear that, you know, Officer Chauvin felt like, okay, I can do what I almost cussed right there. He felt like I'm basically can do whatever I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And so after that, you know, I watched that, and I'm watching the full video, and I'm like, I cannot believe what I just saw. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna cut you short real quick. I want to get the other two to speak, and then we'll have open, free conversation. I'm sorry. It's all love. Love you.
Go ahead.
All right.
Mook.
You already unmuted, Mook. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm appreciations. What's going on?
Go ahead, Mook.
Basically, I guess the best way that I can put this, I don't feel rage. I don't feel resentful. I'm not soft shoeing or doing no coonery either. Both my parents were Black Panthers, so I was raised a little differently than most people. Just like Roosta said, I'm curious to see what our people are going to really do. How is this going to take is it going to take a toll, or is it going to cause an evolution, or are we going to adapt to the situation? Are we going to overcome the situation? Because right now, doing the same thing that we've been doing over the past, because this ain't started with Trayvon. This ain't started with Eric Garner. This started way long time ago. When they had the runaway slave catchers out there, chasing our people with horses. Because right now, to be honest with you, they still consider us property. That's why they kill us so freely. I mean, until you indemnify that, rectify that problem, and establish your own basis for who you are and what you stand for, they will continue to tell you who you are and what you should stand for. Like a lot of these white protesters getting caught up doing things that normally melanated people wouldn't do at a protest. Or you got these odd pictures popping up with vandalization of cemeteries and people putting Black Lives Matters on there. It's just, look, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna do protesting, you wanna stand up for what you believe in. I believe that that's a beautiful thing. But if you're doing all this without a plan, proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. You gotta have a plan. Don't just be out there protesting. Don't be out there looting and all this crazy stuff. Get your plan together. Act on the plan. What are we gonna do from here? Yes, they gun us down in the streets like dogs and put it on TV for entertainment. We see it every day. The news is basically watching our people being murdered en masse. Point blank.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do to change this perception? Because if you really think about it, this is America. This is the land of opportunity. Everybody is opportunistic. They gonna make a dollar the best way they can. And if that dollar comes from the blood of our people being shed freely in the streets, and people can enjoy that as entertainment and pay top dollar for it, of course they're gonna have that ability to put a wall up in between it. You know, you don't want to associate too much with what entertains you. But this is America. And right now, they really caught us slipping. Again. And America likes to put that out in the public. Yeah, they like to show that. They like to showcase that. We caught them slipping again. And that's a terrible thing. That's a terrible perception to have. But now that the world is more open with social media, you have a lot more people engaging like in this matter across the world. So you can't, I wouldn't say can't, I don't even like that word. You shouldn't invest too much time, like Anthony said, too much time and energy, and Timothy too, too much time and energy into what is going on as we speak of right now. You should actually just spread it across the board. Because yes, there is a court case coming up. There is going, and Roosta, you brought up Helen Botham, the Caucasian lady that murdered the brother in his apartment. She actually supposed to be getting out. She didn't even serve no time.
I didn't bring that one up. That was somebody else. But I feel like I almost cussed again.
Oh yeah.
Let me mute myself. I'm gonna mute myself, bro. Let me mute myself, man.
Mute all that. Mute yourself.
But yeah, she's about to get out. She's literally about to get out. She served no time. So we can sit up here and we can talk about this till our faces turn purple, or we can actually sit up here and be the mature men, melanated men that we are, with the IQs that we possess, and come up with the ingenious plans and ideas needed to uplift our people in a way that, like Brother Malcolm said, we are in a position right now in the country that we're in right now to be the first ever to pull off a bloodless revolution. And you have no idea how powerful that is. Not a drop of blood needs to be shed.
Right. Terrell? Okay, no, wait. He's talking. Well, you have to unmute yourself, baby. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first seen the video, I was, I don't want to see, I was like, wow. I mean, I was still, I think, shocked from last week when the guy got shot from the two white men when he was jogging. So I think that was still kind of on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think I'm kind of numb to it. I've been seeing violence all my life, so to see that is just like, here we go again. But more importantly, where do we go from here? The ball is in our court right now. So it's all depending on what we do next. It makes a difference. The march all you want, we already know that's not going to really get us nowhere. But until we come together like with a plan of action, or what we want to do next, Eric, this will be all for nothing. We're going to continue to have, because they don't feel that we're a threat. I think they'll finally realize it now that we pose a serious, we made a big stamp in the revolution, but as far as change, we must come up with a plan of action from now until the future, so things start to really change.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take a lot of time, and to me, it might not be in our time, because the generation right now is we're kind of unorganized. Everybody doing their own thing. So we have to come together with one kind of one rule.
Get unity.
Yeah. Unity. Yeah.
Get on the one agenda and get
plan.
Work.
Exactly. Come together all as one. And that's going to be really hard to do, because everybody got their own agenda.
Carlos, let me ask you something, because you're the only one here with the expertise and the knowledge when it comes to what are we looking at legally? What's really going to happen with all of this? Because, all of these terms are thrown out there, first degree. I don't understand any of that. I have no idea what that means. I can research all I want, but you have been a criminal prosecutor. You are a defense attorney. Explain to us what we're looking at with all these cases. What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, unfortunately, what I think is going to happen is that these fellas may walk. And if they walk, part of the problem is jury selection. So if we look at it from first starting with the perspective of the charges, what the prosecutor is going to do is they're going to charge high. They initially arrested Chauvin on a third-degree murder, which in Minnesota would be akin to a manslaughter, something that happens in the heat of the moment, something that happens with a certain passion that looking back on that you wouldn't have done, but because you did it, someone dies, now there's a homicide. That's a much lower charge than a first or second degree. With them charging him with the second degree, that's because of the outcry of the people. That is, there was some sort of intent to cause great bodily harm or death, and he did that. So fine, they charge him, they get him in the court, but the problem comes in is actually being able to sit 12 people who are going to believe what their eyes tell them. One of the problems that I've found in the practice of law, especially in the trial court setting, is that we as a people don't want to be there. Whether it's because we want to, we don't feel like we need to get off from our jobs because we got to work and take care of our families, or the excuse that I hear most of the times as well, in my religion, it tells me that I can't sit in judgment of other people, so I don't feel comfortable being on this jury. But every time somebody says that, more times than not, that client that's sitting right next to me looks just like them. We don't have equal representation on the juries. So whether it's because people are trying to disqualify themselves, or because the system is set up that when we get caught up and get these charges on us and we get disqualified because our criminal backgrounds won't allow us to do that, or we're not registering the votes so that we can be on the polls, there's just so many things that are keeping us off the jury. But the worst one is when we do it to ourselves. So people always say that the system is rigged, the system doesn't work. Well, hell, we're a part of the system. And if we don't fight to be a part of that system and be in those courtrooms and be on those juries so that we can actually hold these people accountable, it's going to be difficult. So I don't know what the jury makeup is going to look like in this situation. I don't know. Hopefully, with a brother being the prosecutor, he's going to go in and try to seat some people who can look at what they saw, look at somebody who looks like them, see that they're a victim, and then vote to convict. So it doesn't take, a great legal mind to determine that you need people that are going to be able to believe what they see. And that's the biggest thing. So what I see, unfortunately, that if the DA or the prosecutor does not seat a good jury, these guys are going to walk because we are not represented.
Carlos, can I ask you a question? Just talking to a lot of my friends who are lawyers, their belief is that you're going to see a defense of the knee didn't actually kill him. The fact that he could have been having a medical episode prior to the knee. And I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. Is that a viable legal strategy, or do you think that's something they will use?
I absolutely think that's something that they're going to use. So if, as a defense lawyer, I'm definitely going to try to shift the blame onto somebody else, saying that, this person had a medical issue which caused them to die. But a good prosecutor is going to come back with, well, was your action a proximate cause of the death? So whether or not he had these underlying medical issues, the prosecutor is going to have to argue about the fact that had it not been for the actions of the officer, then those medical issues wouldn't have even come into play. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be an argument, but I think that a good prosecutor is going to be able to get past that argument by looking at the actions of the officer. And, it wasn't even an accident.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I gotta agree with Carlos. Simply because of the history of the court system and the basic beliefs of the country as a whole. There's very few instances where police are convicted in the first place. Add to that, the basic assumption that police are there to protect and serve. And whenever they see, a Black person being accosted by the police, it's a bad supposition because the belief is that the policeman is basically a good person who messed up and something bad happened, but the Black person is seen as no matter how much good they do, eventually they're going to revert to their true nature, which is engaging in criminal activity. And so a good prosecutor can be found that can push through that belief, but I really don't have that much faith in the court system because it is designed to be detrimental to Black people.
How does anyone else feel about that? So do all of you agree with that?
Well, I want to chime in for a second.
Go ahead.
What I'm waiting for is the classic playbook of the court system. They did it with Rodney King. They did it with it's a show on Netflix called Trial by Media. They did it with Amadou Diallo. What they do is they say that the jury pool is tainted, and Carlos probably can fill me on that. They can't find a jury pool within the area that they happen. So what do? They take it like the Amadou Diallo case. It was in the Bronx. They knew they weren't going to get. They knew they couldn't find a Black person in the Bronx to be on the jury and find them guilty, innocent. So what they do, they want to take it to a change of venue, and they put it in an area where they knew the higher chance of less Blacks on the jury than whites. Now we have no peers, and of course, white people being from a different area, a different lens, they see the police as defenders of justice, whereas black people feel us as oppressors. So that's what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on to see, like Carlos said, that he feel they're gonna be found innocent. That's one reason, and the other reason I feel they make it, the laws are so hard to convict a police officer these days, not necessarily because of Trump, but because of the past few years of the Republican Senate, that making a conviction for a police officer is like extremely hard to prove.
Okay.
So,
Can I chime in?
Let me chime in one right quick.
Let somebody else chime in on that. Go ahead.
I used to work in the mental hospital, and we had training on how to restrain patients. We had always was training on how to restrain patients. We had to take patients down all the time. What the first thing they tell you is, if someone says they can't breathe, you must get up, or you must position them to where they can breathe and you're not hurting them. So if they're teaching us that in a mental hospital, I'm pretty sure that the police department is being trained on how to arrest people without killing them. So there's really no excuse on you putting your knee on the back of somebody's neck and they're telling you, I can't breathe, and you don't try to put the man in a different position so that he's comfortable enough to receive oxygen. There's no excuse for that.
Go ahead, Roosta.
They have like impunitive immunity, so they always have an excuse to be able to say that I felt fear of my life. They taught me that when I was in in corrections for Harris County, that if you're in trouble at all with any type of restraint you did, if you felt like you're gonna be in trouble for what you did, that's your go-to line. And they have impunitive immunity for that. I don't know if I'm saying that right for police.
Qualified immunity. Qualified immunity.
Thank you.
Can I say something right quick?
Yes, Antoine, go ahead.
So what this all boils down to me is like someone else said, this Brother Naseer said, this is nothing new. What America does best is racism. Like America does that better than we do, than it does anything else. This has happened and happened and happens and will happen to black folk, black men in particular, because it can. Like the black man, the black people are not valued in this country. We're valued for what we can do, what monies we can pump into systems, what we can buy, our culture, but our lives, like our beings, it's not valued. So I guarantee you, had George Floyd been a white man, pinned down, the heavens would have fell. Those men would have been immediately fired. It would have been it would have been completely different. Black people have lived under different sets of laws and rules for our entire span in this country, whether it been codified by law or by the social differences that we operate under. So unfortunately, I don't think that this will be the last until our presence as people, our presence as American citizens is respected and valued.
Anyone else want to chime in on that? Go ahead, Bub.
So I've sat here and listened to basically what Carlos, Terrell, Roosta, all you guys had to say, and like I feel myself getting enraged and frustrated all over again. And like Antoine said, this will not be the last. And for me, like I said initially when I started, given that I have a 17-year-old son, at some point, there has to be a moment of clarity for us as people of color to say, you know what, this is it. Maybe this is this moment and maybe it's not, But this is a hell of a start. This is a foundation different from any other experience over the last 10, 12 years that we've actually seen American people to some extent or some degree galvanize around basically a public lynching, because that's exactly what this was. This was a public lynching. The difference is, what are we going to do individually, collectively, to continue to apply pressure on not only the justice system, but city, state, and federal regulations to not defund police departments, because we know that's theoretically impossible, but to actually force a retraining of the police system. This is the only country where you have 20 weeks of police training and you're a police officer. Just about every other country outside 4 years of actual police training. So in this particular moment, while we have this huge swing of momentum, I believe the biggest thing is us actually sitting down with the real leaders of this. I mean, I don't believe there's no true leaders of this entire movement, but what are our actual demands? What are we demanding? We're not demanding justice for just one particular situation. We require justice for every situation that's going to happen moving forward, because it's going to happen again. And we all know and understand that. Now, I don't know, I may be the youngest person on this panel right now, but at the same time, it just feels like a storm that's going to blow over to some extent or some degree without us actually getting everything that we feel we need and want out of this situation. And I'll let anyone go respond to what I verbalized.
All right.
Respond.
Here's the deal.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Kaylin. I haven't heard from Everett in a minute. I apologize. Fix your face. Go ahead, Everett. Fix your face.
But I'm gonna let Roosta finish in a second. But I wanna touch on something that Bub said, and it's a shame that we're normalized to already thinking what's going to be the outcome for this situation.
Right.
That's the first problem, and so I think he touches on some really great points.
Yes,
we don't know
sir.
who our leaders are right now, and this is the moment where we start seeing the emergence of people that can guide these conversations and narratives about what's getting ready to happen. And I think it's important for our lawyers, for our educators, for our business owners to go ahead and start preparing situations that are getting ready to happen. Because the bottom line is, we get to this case and, they walk. It's protesting again, but it's going to be at a different level.
Oh, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly.
We have to go ahead and start figuring out how we're going to guide that rage that everybody's going to have
to be ugly
from that situation, because you already know what's getting ready to happen. The other piece of it is just thinking in terms of how do you enable the change that you want to see, and again, it's interesting here in Houston, we spent the day and it was great for the funeral and seeing everything that was happening. But if you're looking at the other parts of the news, they scamming on the voting rights in certain states. You got all these other things going on. You got to pay attention to everything. Don't focus on this, because that's what they want you to do.
Distractions are there.
You got to have those conversations to start leading those narratives forward. And so I do think, Bub is right. This is the part where when you have that momentum of the storm, you start pushing that storm in the way that it should go. And I think, this is a great piece. All of these Black men on here talking about this. You need more conversations like this. You need more community pieces to push it towards, where we see the positive change. It's got to happen in the educational system. It's got to start from talking to not just the kids of color, but the other kids to understand you got to change this too. We need your help. It can't just be us. You got to have them same conversations with business owners on the same block. I grew up in Brooklyn, and on any block, you can see 10 different races all in the same.
Everett, let me pause you real quick. Kareem has to go. He has something he wants to say. I'm sorry, Everett. Go ahead. Go ahead, Reem. I apologize.
Yeah. Hold on.
You good?
Oh,
wait.
Okay, I'm on mute. You know, I agree. Every way that I could support the generation that's really moving this forward, I would like to. I see what's going on out there, and you know, it's not my brother's generation or my mother's generation. It's not even a lot of my generation out there. You know, I see a lot of 20, 25-year-olds out there that's not having it. You know what I'm saying? And I had to explain to my daughter. She said, you know, well, why white people protesting? And I said, because it's not about black and white all the time. Sometimes it's about the human race. You know, there's so many people who see that are at that level, that see it as not just a black thing or a white thing. This is a human thing. You know what I mean? And, you know, again, I throw all my support behind the people that are protesting and doing everything else that they can. You know, even if you share, you know, a post on Instagram, if you blacked out on Tuesday, you're part of that, you know, revolution that's happening. And, you know, I definitely wanted to say to E, thank you for having me on the show. To my brothers, y'all stay up, y'all stay strong. And I know that there's been a different vibe around the city as long as I've been here from New York. I know that there, you know, over the last few years, it's been a different vibe, but I'm pretty sure, you know, it's definitely a different vibe amongst our people where, you know, we may not be looking at each other sideways as much. And I hope that continues to grow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on. Next time you'll stay longer. Go take care of your show. Appreciate you. Everett, go ahead and finish what you were saying. I apologize. I wanted to get him off. Go ahead. Unmute yourself. I need to just unmute everyone. Y'all just be quiet.
But I just think we have to start thinking, you know, I think the brother, I can't remember his, Mr. Naseer, talked about, you know, planning so we avoid those piss poor performance obstacles from occurring. And so knowing, you know, we're looking at the cycles of things that have happened before. So knowing what's getting ready to occur in the future, we need to start planning for those types of things and thinking about how we can take that same energy that's going to be at a very heightened scale and how we can maneuver it amongst us to make change. Conversations around the protests, you know, I'm all for the protests. Obviously, there's some infiltration of negative, you know, connotations and things that are occurring, but the protest is working. Regardless of what people think, you see things starting to change, but you got to keep applying that positive pressure so that it happens in the right forms. There's got to be conversations beyond just voting people in, holding people accountable. Hold those people accountable that's supposed to be representing you. It's great to have black politicians, but if you're not doing your job, you're just as bad as the criminals.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to really sit down as community members with the leaders and kind of develop what those plans look like. And everybody plays a part, whether you are, you know, just a neighborhood person, but the neighborhood person that everybody knows and can kind of be the communication piece for others. You play a vital role. If you are a black business owner, or even just a Hispanic business owner or Native American business owner, you're still playing a part in terms of that community. And so there's a conversation that you have to be involved in doing your part. You know, I actually, you know, I know people are up and down with Governor Cuomo about stuff in New York, but there's a lot of things that he's saying that makes a lot of sense. You know, things like pushing legislation for false, you know, 911 accusation. That should be nationwide. Because, you know, if we can start eliminating some of the initial parts of these things, the antecedents that are sparking all of these different problems with the police, we start cutting down on these issues. They don't have the ammunition to continue these racist acts, which is what they are.
Go ahead, Ghost.
I was going to say, I don't know if everyone was aware of this, that I didn't notice until recently, that every police department doesn't have body cams. Did everyone know that? Every police, to me, that should be, especially in light of what's been going on over the years. How does the police departments not all have body cams? And from what I've been told is that a lot of it is simply just due to money. So a lot of the municipalities they can purchase the actual body cams, but the problem is it's the storage. It's very expensive to keep the storage of all of these, cases. So to me, that's where federal help should come in. And I know we've seen it through the COVID where federal government doesn't always like to to allocate money to certain states, whether it's red or blue or whatever the case might be. They don't allocate the money. That to me should be an absolute thing to help with, keeping police accountable for them.
They better find the money. They better find the money. What's going on right now? They can find the money. That's
you
no
have
bullshit. They can find the money.
Yeah,
it just decides on what they want to do, because all that stuff comes from taxpayers, and you paying your taxes, you getting it. Even if I don't want to get it, they need so, because this is going to keep happening. You know what I mean?
That's a change. That's a change that you can implement immediately. All police officers have body cams. That's a start for me. That should be just a fundamental fact there.
And I've noticed there was a report
that would increase accountability.
Right.
Like,
I'm sorry?
They're not going to do it. They're not invested in it because that would increase accountability. So they're not going to do it. They're going to find a way. Oh, we can't afford them. Oh, the technology's not this. Oh, you can't always trust it. Oh, it can be turned off. So they'll find every excuse in the book because it's about accountability. You have a body cam on that's supposed to always be on, and I'm accountable to that. So they're going to find every excuse in the book.
I was just going to mention that word, accountability. I was going to say that I don't think a lot of things are going to really start changing until people start being held accountable for their actions across the board. And that's, from the law on down to ourselves. But we all have to have a certain accountability to do a certain thing, push a certain agenda, but also too, for the masses, we get basically when people start seeing being held accountable and seeing repercussions for their actions, then their actions are going to slowly start changing. And I think that's going to have to happen. Also, I think that it's, as Black people, we can do so much, only so much. The difference now I'm seeing is that you have more people of power that are, let's say, you put on ESPN, you see the different ones speaking out, different people who have bigger platforms to influence and to bigger voices that are non-Black, that are kind of getting the message out there, who someone may listen to them as opposed to another Black person who just seemingly repeating the same rhetoric, they always been, or just seemingly complaining. Now they see that, well, now this person sees that it's an issue. This person is recognizing that it's an issue. This person who's not Black, who's recognizing that it's an issue. And it's like, it's now we have the ear of the world right now. And so considering that, I think it's like, while we have it, that momentum, like everybody was saying, we got to use that and push it as far as we can push it. But again, it's going to take the voices of others too that are non-Black to see that it's really affecting everybody, not just us, and that's a worldwide problem, and not just Black people problem, but it's basically everyone acknowledging that this is a problem, and it's been going on for too long. And again, the accountability has to be big, and until they start being held accountable, nothing will change from a police standpoint, from a law standpoint. So hopefully we can get a lot of things put in place to really just hold people accountable for every little thing they do, and just kind of go from there. But I think accountability is the biggest thing for me that I can see pushing forward, that being the catalyst for change, I would say.
Let's speak on this. We're talking about the police brutality, but let's talk about citizen brutality and citizens killing men of color. And very little even happening to them. It's been happening for a very long time. We have two things. So Carlos, you're the resident attorney. I'm gonna ask you, what do you think is gonna happen with that case? Because we're talking about the police, and then we had something happen way before that, where this young man got gunned down by two people and recorded by one, and that took 2 months for them to even get put in jail. 3 months.
3 months. 3 months. It was 3 months.
Yeah. So what do we do about that? This vigilante stuff that's going on.
You know, that's a good question, and I think that I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a big proponent of saying when you don't know, as far as how we're going to stop it. The vigilantes, is that the question?
My thing, what I'm asking is, you had this ex-police officer, regular citizen now, who killed this young man for no reason. And nothing happened to them until the video got released, and it was 3 months.
Okay,
So,
now that your question is making it a little clearer for me. So in that situation, one of the things that I believe is that there is power in our voice and in our vote. And not only that, there also has to be power in our ability to get in these positions where we can help to affect that change. So whenever a crime occurs, the DA has the power to decide whether or not that person is going to be charged. You know, most people think that the power lies with the judge. Power doesn't lie with the judge until sentencing. The power lies with the DA initially in trying to get these people charged. If we don't put people into office that are going to look out for our interests and look out for the people that are most affected by these racist crimes and these racist officers,
Yes, sir.
then we're not going to get anything done. So, you know, what if, you know, this community, you know, because if I'm not mistaken, this video was posted to a group for the homeowners association. So what if no one decided to send that out to someone else for them to view? Then we don't know what happened. But luckily someone did, and then we were able to put pressure on the DA to do his job. It shouldn't have to take that, but when it does, what I think is that DA should be out next term. There should be a mobilization to find someone, preferably a person of color, a black person, to run and put him in. Those are the things that help us to gain some sort of power in these situations. Because if we're going to allow them to hide behind their positions, hide behind, you know, their race, hide behind, you know, just the fact that they were in fear of their life, we just can't do that. We have to be able to make some changes ourselves by putting ourselves in position to take some of these positions or getting those folks out. I think that's going to be a big help in trying to make sure that when things like this happen, that we have a person who's really objective, who can see things that are happening and then bring the appropriate charges, especially when there's a criminal situation like this.
Anyone else want to speak on that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Roosta.
Go ahead, Roosta. Go ahead.
All right. First of all,
I'm giving you 2 minutes.
I understand that, you know, you know, you want to get people in, you know, in higher places that are, you know, black people, whatever. But before you can even do that, you really need to change the perception that, you know, that black people have. And one of those things is to call out the people that have, you know, basically tarnished the reputation of black people. I'm talking about people like John J. DeLulio, who toured the country calling black people super predators. You know, a whole generation of juveniles that were described as being impervious to to gunfire, and you know they literally have no feeling. They're basically animals walking the streets or whatever. So you know, black people need to understand and harness the power of propaganda as it pertains to, you know, changing the perception that society at large has of us. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you get a person of you know, a black person in those positions, you know, they get shouted down because they're already facing a hierarchy that's already in place, which is the judges who have lifetime appointments, and you know the congressperson or the Senate, the senator or the state senator or the state congressman or even the city councilman or the mayor. You know what I'm saying? So those perceptions need to be changed first. Okay, so there needs to be a letter writing campaign, something to bring back, you know, to discount the impetus of, you know, the discrediting of black people's reputation in this country. And until that happens, you know, gonna keep going through this whole wash, rinse,
Wouldn't you
repeat.
say though, going back to like what Carlos said, that's other people we have to change. Within ourselves, we have to become more involved and not feel so defeated. You know what I mean? Like we can't.
Well, we are what I've seen through this whole thing is us actually coming together, and I've been saying that for the last 10 years. Black folks, we need to come together. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the issue. I don't care what it is. We come together about. We can come together about the Popeyes chicken sandwich. We can come together about the white Hennessy that can't nobody get in the United States, but everybody taking a cruise so they can get some white Hennessy. Just come together on something. And what I saw, bruh.
Hey, focus.
But what I saw was not only in the United States, but I saw a worldwide mobilization of people.
But no, let me say this though. Let me say this, Roosta. Let me say this. I firmly believe the only reason why it is worldwide because we have been worldwide sitting at home sick. If we were not home,
we have, and that's the thing.
But that's what I'm saying. So we weren't home sick. And the problem is society right now is very cliquish, clickbaitish, cancel. All this support, in my opinion, is I don't want to get canceled. So let me support something.
Yeah.
All of this happening because I don't feel it's genuine. Plain and simple.
I
don't think it's genuine. And at the end of the day, one second, let me say, I've been quiet the whole time. Let me say this. I don't feel it's genuine. You know what I mean? And I honestly feel we worry about these higher officials and you have no idea who your city council person is. You have no idea who some people don't even know who their mayor happens to be. I live in Baytown. Some folks don't even know who your Baytown mayor is. Our mayor is not for Houston. It's someone totally different. You see what I'm saying? We have to be more involved locally because we have too many local Black people who are in leadership who get there and then forget. Are trained to do things.
I agree.
It's not about Trump because this has been going on before Trump. We have to think about what's going on locally, and we cannot get mad for a second and then forget about it because it's already happening now. What about this and what about that? When we say we matter, we matter. We're talking about all of us. And people get too excited when one thing happens. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And what I'm saying is it takes more. And the only reason why people are so fired up because they've been sitting there at home, not be able to go anywhere, and you're forced to watch the news. You're forced to see what's going on.
That's true.
I agree. I'm gonna say this.
Let me say this last thing, and I'm done. And these people who are supporting right now, that bullshit the Republicans, Democrats did with the kente cloth around their neck kneeling was some bullshit.
That was some nice planning.
I'm gonna say this.
Because you don't want to get canceled.
Hold on.
As soon as somebody say they want to agree with it, they shut them down. They don't want to get canceled.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing.
Let Tam speak real quick. He ain't spoken in a minute. I'm sorry. Calm down, Kylon.
I think that going back to what you said about it not being genuine, I think a lot of it goes back to the power of social media. And it goes back to like Trump. Let's use Trump for example. Trump says a lot of bullshit. And even the Republicans know he says some bullshit. But they know he knows how to control his social media that if they say anything against him or something that he doesn't like, he basically does a beehive thing and all his followers on him and make them pretty much, he bludgeons them to be quiet. So the Republicans don't say nothing because they don't want to be in Trump's wrath. So I feel that what's going on right now is the cancel culture is so strong that a lot of these companies don't want to be on, and at the end of the day, it's bottom line. It has all to do with money. It has nothing to do with do they like black people? No, they don't. They dealing with money. At the end of the day, so they don't want to be on the wrong side of the cancel culture. Right. They want to be on the side of everybody pointing the finger as opposed to everybody pointing the finger at them. Because I guarantee you, for example, if Wendy's, for example, Wendy's got lumped up in that whole donating to Trump. Wendy's was like, hold up, we don't even like Trump like that. Seriously, Wendy's had to make a tweet.
Don't put me in that. I wasn't part of it. Right.
Wendy's had to make a tweet saying we don't support none of this shit, which they probably do. They probably support both, but they had to make a tweet so they wouldn't lose business. People was like, we ain't fucking with KFC. We ain't fucking with Taco Bell, which they probably are still. But a lot of people enough is going to affect the bottom line. And so I feel that it's not necessarily, it is fake, but the fakeness derives from not wanting to be victim of the social media cancel culture. That's
Go ahead, Everett. I know you're raising your hand. Your hand getting tied in the classroom. Go ahead.
So there's a scale between the accountability piece and then the leading by example piece. And so people are trying to balance between the two of them. The thing that Trump does to his own effectiveness is he sets examples. The people that cross him, he gets them out. Like, you've never seen so many people drop from the White House cabinet or from his connections and stuff. Like, we've never seen another president who just drops people like flies. He literally has a new cast of people every season.
Yeah, he's still on a reality show.
You're all disposable.
Right? And so, and he does that because his high balance is leading by example. And I think when we go back to what the brother that was the lawyer was talking about was, even when we look at those different positions, the DA and all of those people, I think also the pressure has to be on them for that example. I think if you want to see the change, I'm not saying people need to go out and retaliate or go, start shooting the people that's doing these things, but you've got to set some examples from a level of legislature, from a level of the law to say, this was a hate crime. Like, this should be either life or, I don't know if they still doing the executions and stuff, but
they don't do the death penalty in Minnesota.
So, okay, but think about Ahmaud Arbery, right? Like, that was literally.
Now they do the death penalty in Georgia.
Let me pause both of you real quick. Antoine has to leave, so I want him to get his last words in. Go ahead, Antoine.
So sorry about I gotta go, but I want to I want to thank Erlene for this opportunity. I really think that we as Black men need to come together more and speak on this. And like Brother Naseer said, we need to come up with some concrete plans that have achievable goals and objectives, and that will hold us, our community, and those that are in positions of authority accountable. So I'm gonna step out. Y'all brothers enjoy. Arlene, thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank
Y'all
you
be
for
blessed.
doing it. You'll be back again.
Be blessed, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Can I like come on in the back end of that thing? You know what I'm saying? One of the things that I'm noticing is that, like you said, nobody knows who their congressman is or their mayor or their city council person or whatever, and they don't know how legislation gets introduced. And I don't think that a lot of people know that there is legislation being introduced right now where qualified immunity is being challenged. It's being challenged by a congressman from, I believe, the state of Michigan, by the name of Justin Amash. That's AMASH. So one of the things that can happen is you can start talking to your state, your federal congressman or your federal senator, and saying, hey, what are you going to do about this bill that's being introduced by Congressman Justin Amash, trying to end the Qualified Immunity Act. And then, you just go down the line. I mean, I will agree that there is no organization, and the reason that there is no organization is because we've been splintered for so long that I don't think we know how to organize. We know how to come together because we basically don't have anything else to do. We know how to throw a party. We can't do it. We can't do it right now, but the country as a whole will open up as in a minute, you know, and we'll be back to, you know, partying or going to the sports bar, going to, you know, whatever sporting event or whatever, and you know, this moment will be lost. And it's already starting to splinter now when you got Billy Porter, who is a black man, talking about, you know, hey, some fucking, I'm sorry, damn it.
Well, let me ask this
Almost
question.
made
I'll
it
let
through.
you finish. Let me ask this question, Kylon. I'll let you finish. I know you need to bite your tongue. So, how do all of you feel when? Because we're all old enough to realize we've been through this before. How do you feel when you have people now, not just white people saying all lives matter, or not just, let me just say white people, but you know, people that all lives matter, now saying, what about queer black men and queer black women? What about trans? They're trying, it's as if when you say Black Lives Matter, you're not speaking of Black lives, no matter what your orientation may be. How do you feel about that?
I think it's counterproductive to the movement as a whole. And the reason why I say that is because I'm born black. I don't have any choice in being black. Now I do have a choice in who I lay down with, even though it ain't nobody motherfucker.
Hey, watch your language. There's children in the room. Watch your language.
There's no children in my room.
I'm gonna unmute you right now. Bub, go ahead. See.
So here's the thing with that, with exactly what you just said. So the LGBTQ, they will always interject their goals and their objectives into whatever movement that's going on. And as a therapist, as a social worker, I've seen it, I've watched it, I've seen it play out. At the end of the day, when it said Black Lives Matter, that's exactly what it is. Now, mind you, the whole Black Lives Matter narrative is owned by a lesbian couple. That's the here nor there. They copywrote it, but it doesn't, that's besides the point. The reality of it is that people continue to use these differences in opinions as a divisive factor to say, let's separate, okay, if you're a straight black male, female, okay, we're gonna put you over here. If you're a gay male, we're gonna put you over here. No, if you black, your life matters. And that's the reality of the issue. Now, there's some sub-issues in that with the LGBTQ because they're disproportionate as well in several different factors. But at the end of the day, we're talking about Black lives and how it's affected in a day in and day out basis. And it comes back to, like several people said on the panel, accountability. When you hold your city councilman, your state rep accountable for what he or she said that they're going to do when they're running for election and you vote for them, if they don't do what they said they're going to do, you vote for someone else that next term. And I think we've all become victims of our parents' and grandparents' mode of politics. Oh, well, I'm going to vote for this person. Perfect example, I'm from New Orleans. William Jefferson, Bill Jefferson has been the longest standing black politician. I think he was convicted several years ago, but people constantly voted for him because he was black. It had nothing to do with him making any significant changes in the state of Louisiana or the city of New Orleans. But your grandparents would always have that mindset, well, this person young, they don't know what they're doing. Well, if you don't give them opportunity with their creativity and their new thought processes on what things and how things should be moving forward, then we're going to remain stagnant. And I believe that's where the issue splits as far as the generations of black individuals, because we have so many different levels and tiers of black people. You have that few that's in that 1%, then you have that upper middle class, lower middle class, and then poor. So there's only really 4 divisions of black economics in this country. And when you look at those 4 divisions, all 4 of them see things differently. So it comes to coming together saying, hey, what do you think? How do you feel about this particular politician or that particular politician? And it's platforms like this and other platforms that we need to continue to grow for local and state, every state, amongst Black communities to say, hey, this is a person that does X, Y, and Z. This person does A, B, C. X, Y, and Z may benefit others. But finding that middle and that balance is what's going to make the difference in making sure all of our demands are being met in this time of great momentum. And I'll let someone else go because I know you got us all on a 2-minute calendar.
just Roosta. I want to say this because I don't want to keep any of you too long, and I do want to have a part 2 with fewer of you. We're gonna break it up. But I want to speak to you as Black men being seen as a threat. You know, we have the term Karens. We have Karens in the world. And I want each of you to tell me, how has it been for you as a Black man? And when did you experience your first taste of discrimination or the idea that you are a criminal, you're unsafe? And how has that been for you getting older in the world, seeing things happen? Carlos, you go first.
I kind of knew you were going to call on me first. I don't know why, but I don't know if I can ever pinpoint the time where I felt like I was a threat or perceived to be a criminal, but I do know that from a very young age that I was looked at different by white folks. I grew up in a very small town with a lot of white folks, and one of the most offensive things that was ever told to me happened when I was about 17 or 18, where this white girl said, "You know what? I like you because you're not Black. I mean, you're Black, but you're not like Black. And I was floored at the moment, and I was floored when she told me that. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not Black? I'm Black as they come. So from that moment, I realized that I wasn't looked at the same by my white peers. And it didn't get any better matriculating through law school, because even though I went to a historically Black law school, Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, there were a lot of white folks there who still did not see me as an equal. And it was always a matter of fighting to show that I'm supposed to be here. And but I just can't tell you a pinpoint a time where I felt like I was the threat or the scary Black man. But I always know that there's always an elephant in the room. I mean, just from my appearance, bald head, beard, big guy, dark skin. I mean, I'm some white woman's nightmare every time I walk into the door. So, or her dream. But in either case, I'm stereotyped as being that dangerous person. And like I said, it doesn't even have a pinpoint. It's just that you always notice that it's there.
Right. Everett?
I kind of concur with what Carlos said. I think it's difficult to pinpoint one moment where you just kind of know that it's occurring. I think I can go back as early as maybe middle school or high school, somewhere in between there. I remember, me and the crew playing basketball, and it's late evening, and, we had went to school, we went to work. It's late night, we out going to shoot some hoops, and we're playing like ball at the school, right? So the coaches know us, the teachers know us, like everybody knows we're out there playing ball at these particular times. And this is spring Texas, and constables pull up, and it's, y'all come over here, get on the car, and it's like, hey, we go to school here, we play ball here, like this is not, we're not doing anything wrong here. And my brother, I think he was right below the curfew age or whatever. So they tried to hang that as, you guys are minor, or you got a minor out here past curfew and stuff. And it's like, who enforces a curfew? We're not in the times of rioting and pandemic. Like, we just out here playing basketball because we just like to play ball. you know, and it's like they're putting in the calls or whatever, and so they talk to somebody from the school. And they're like, oh yeah, they're always out there. Those are, you know, those are kids that go to school here. They normally out there. They practice and they get ready for the season or whatever. You know, so you always kind of, from that moment, you know, of course you're heated and whatnot, and you just from there just expect stuff to continue going, you know, the same way that it has been. As you grow older, you go through college, you go through life, you get into your profession. I mean, racism is still around you all the time. It never like disappears. You know, and the higher you go up, the more you see it. The politics of everything, you know, regardless of what profession you're in, you just see it all around you. So, you know, I think for us now, especially now that, you know, we're of the older generation, we're raising kids and stuff like that, we're just trying to make sure we're imparting the correct tools and approaches for our kids to hope and pray that they don't have to go through some of the things we went through.
Ghost, I know you can pinpoint a moment in your life.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for me, you know, I grew up in a mixed town. So the first time I've heard it was probably about 8 years old, playing on a little league baseball team, and me and my brother were both on the team together, and the white kid came up and called us a spade, right? And I didn't know what that was. And we were like, well, what does that mean? He said it's a term my parents use for black people. Right? So my mom came down, spoke to his parents, and called them out on it. So that's when I kind of learned that it is taught within the family. Kids don't just, they're born with it. It's learned. And so that was probably the first time, and I just saw it happen as I got old. So 7 was probably my first time I saw it. As far as a situation, I think we've all probably been through it, is the clutching of the purse. I know that's happened to me numerous times. Elevators, you're standing in close proximity to a Karen, and they clutch that purse. Being a dark-skinned, taller guy, you know, I've seen that happen countless times. And you get this stereotypical, you know, you're on a basketball team with four of my friends.
Lock the door.
Oh, the car door you're talking about?
Locking the car door.
Locking the car door. You see all that. Walk on the other side of the street. I'm sure you've gotten that before. So I can count countless times of it. But like I said, you know, a lot of it is learned, and that's why I'm very big on, you really, if a person, a non-black person, would know someone or get to know someone of another race, it'll make a difference. Because the first thing you think of now is, instead of seeing me as a criminal, you're going to think of that person that you know, or that person that you're cool with. And I can't hear you. You got to unmute. I think
I'm just talking, right? No, I said you hope so, but you still have, unless they've had some experience, they're still thinking, oh, you're nice for a black person. Oh, for a black man, you're a nice one. Like Carlos said, oh, well, you're not like the other ones. And bless their hearts, some don't even hear themselves. Like they don't even hear what they're saying. You know, we all had to play that game.
You're pretty for a fat girl.
Right.
It's crazy. I do work over the phone, and I remember my first boss right out of college told me, he said, you know what, you could make a lot of money because you don't sound black. I said, what does that mean? He said, you know, you just he couldn't articulate what that meant, but he said, you don't sound like a black person. So you
don't sound ghetto or hood.
Yeah,
I used to get it all the time. I mean, granted, I'm not a man, but I used to get it all the time when I would, either when I was going to school in a new school year, getting a new teacher, they see Erlene Mango, they're not thinking a black woman. Or when I would call, when they got me in for an interview and we did a phone interview, they weren't thinking a black woman. Like, oh, and when I walk through the door, I just love when I walk through the door, like, oh, yeah, I'm here. Anthony, let's talk about your experiences.
Man, I was trying to think, but
If you don't
it's
have
been
one,
my
it's
whole
okay.
life. It's been my whole life, but one specific one that I know resonated with me the most. I was in the Navy both times, and I got pulled over because I drove out of the gas station, and my parking lights were on, but not my headlights. So I didn't really get out of the gas station too long before I could even turn my lights back on. But I could see inside my car, you know, when your parking lights on, you still think your lights on because the lights are on in the dim, in the shed. So I didn't realize it. Pulled me over, and I so happened to have a white guy in the car with me. And immediately he asked the guy if he was okay. And the guy was like, yeah. And then he was like, you know, where is he taking you? Like, I'm not there, you know. He's like, where is he taking you? And he's like, we going to the movies. Like, you know, like, what's the deal? He was like, he asked him to get out of the car. So I'm like, did he steal something in the store? Like, what's going on? Why he charging him up? He told him, when I found out, you know, later after he asked me all my questions, asked my license and everything, asked me if where am I coming from, and, you know, because I was at a naval base. Where am I coming from? And I was like, well, I'm coming from the naval base. And he was like, well, you know, your parking lights, you know, you was driving with your parking lights, you didn't have your headlights on. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. You know, I don't know what happened. I must have didn't turn it on all the way. He was like, okay, well, I'll let you get out of the car. I need to see if you have anything on you. And I'm like, in the military at this point in time, you know, I'm in the military, I'm fresh out of boot camp. So when you get orders, you just follow them. That's the mindset they train you to. So you just like, all right, let's get this over with. I get out the car, not really causing no problems. He go way too extra with the put your hands on the dashboard shit, and then slams my hands on the door. And I'm looking at him like, he said, don't look at me, boy. And I'm like, wait, what? And now I realize it's a different vibe. It's a different energy going on, right? My friend is like coming towards me, he's like, hey, what's going on? He was like, get back, you know. So he, like, his whole demeanor, he got his he put his hands on his gun, telling me don't move. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, what are you checking for? I don't have anything on me. My wallet, I used to have a real big wallet on me, so I had everything. My whole life was in this wallet. It was so thick, you know what I'm saying? So he feels my wallet and gets super nervous. Like, what do you have in your pocket? I'm like, my wallet, man. He's like, are you sure? That's a big wallet. I'm like, yeah, it's just a wallet. Pull it out if you want to. He said, I don't know if you got drugs in you and then you got something that's going to, you know, poke me or going to cut me or something. I'm like, no, it's a wallet, bro. Like, at this point, I'm getting nervous to the point where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. And this is before, you know, social media. This is like this is the late 90s. This is like 98. And so this is before social media and all that. So we haven't seen like the brutality other than personal experience. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm in the military. You seen that I had military ID and you still treat me like this. Like, all that, that's why when I hear people talking about they support the troops and all that, that's just like, it's real weak to me. Like, it's just words. Like, y'all don't really support that because y'all don't really respect it if you look like something else. When they say they support the troops, they thinking about white guys. That's how I see it, because I never seen anybody who's like, oh yeah, I support all troops no matter where you're from, because our history has shown that when World War II veterans came back, they didn't get respect as troops. They got respect as niggas, and that's how they treated you. So that was my first experience where it's like, this is a total different lifestyle I live. Like, I gotta walk on the defensive out here. I can't walk offensively because my life becomes in danger at that point.
What about you, Bub?
So my first experience racial profiling. I think I was 11 or 12 years old. Me and my friends, we were leaving the park. We were playing football. So we're sweaty, we're hot. It's New Orleans. So, you know, New Orleans in the summer is no different from Texas, minus, you know, add about 10 degrees on the humidity end. And we walking home, we got a football in our hand. It's probably about 8 or 9 of us. And the police officer says, you know, 2 cop cars pull up. Like, we're all 12, 13, 14 years old. They pull up like we gangbanging, like real talk. So they tell us, hey, all y'all put your hands on the car. And we like, for what? Like, we're trying to go to the house and drink out this hose pipe because it's hot. So anything you know about New Orleans, police officers, and it's probably other areas as well, but police officers do not turn their vehicles off. So when a police officer tell you to put your hands on a car, that car is hot as shit. Excuse my language. So you're not just palming the car, you're fingertipping it. And that was my first experience. And they gave us the whole like 3rd degree, asking us our names, where we lived. And we were actually in our neighborhood. That was my very first experience. Now, mind you, a year later, I did some illegal activity and was arrested, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm going to be honest, you know, because I grew up in a system where either you're going to eat or be eaten, right? Fast forward 15 years later, I'm a grad student at Tulane University, which is a PWI, and I'm literally the only black male in my program. So now I'm being racially profiled as, okay, I had the locks back then as well, but every university police officer knew exactly who I was. They knew that I was in the School of Social Work master's program. They knew my schedule. They knew my vehicle. They knew where I parked. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm here on a scholarship. You think I'm about to mess up my scholarship and my life to do something to these white folk on this campus? Like, do y'all really believe that's my intention? And I believe New Orleans is a very segregated city. Most people may not know or see that because it's such a party city, but New Orleans is very segregated. Like, from kindergarten through high school, I probably was in school with maybe 5 white people from kindergarten through 12th grade. And when you get in the workforce in New Orleans, then you may work with more diverse cultures and populations. But I can name countless times I've been pulled over, been stopped, solely because I'm driving while black. Even now to this day, I go home in New Orleans and I could be because my grandmother still lives in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. She's been there since 1955. But I could still go in that same neighborhood, be sitting on the porch, walk to the corner store, walk to the barber shop, walk to the bar on the corner. If a cop deems it necessary to pull me over, he's going to stop me now. Again, at this particular point, I know my rights. I am able to articulate and verbalize my stance with, no, I'm not going to allow you to pat me down. I don't fit the description of any particular circumstance or situations. I'm not a threat to you. I'm not a threat to my community. But it's been several instances. I can't even count the amount of times I've been racially profiled by police officers or a Karen or a Becky in the mall or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's countless times. It's countless.
Terrell, you're from New Orleans. Is that similar experience for you?
Wow, what's that, Rob?
Hey,
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, what he's saying is very true. We grew up. I didn't even know a Spanish person was, so I got to Houston. You know, we predominantly black, like 90% black. So the whole time from kindergarten to high school, I never had. If they were from another ethnicity, they act black, so we just adopted them as a black person. Even if they were Spanish or mixed with Spanish or something like that, we never knew. We just automatically assumed that they were black or Creole or something like that. But we never treated you treat anyone any different. Now, when I came from New Orleans to Houston, I remember one time we tried to go out to a club. I had a bunch of my friends from New Orleans. We went to Westheimer, and we tried to get in this little club, and the bouncer was like this big old white dude, kind of like the biker type, was like, y'all can't come in. So we like, okay, what's the problem? We like, we all dressed. So we like, oh, okay. So we didn't think of nothing about it. So it was like a group of white people came in with the same dress, hats with back, shorts on, tennis shoes. They let them walk right in. So we like, well, damn, why y'all let them in? And yo told us we couldn't come in. And he ain't say nothing. So I was like, oh, okay. I put two and two together and realized, they was on some other stuff. But what really pissed me off was like, one of my friends was like, well, we got money. It's not like we broke and nothing. I was like, man, that's not what it's about. Why would you want to go in an establishment that don't want you in the first place? You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that was a big eye opener. That happened a couple of times in Houston and a couple of spots on Washington. And the crazy part, the last time it happened, it was a black dude that told us that. And he let the white people in with the same thing on we had, walked right past the dude, and told us we couldn't come in. So it's like you can discriminate against your own people at the same time. So
right,
that happens too. That's a whole other story.
You was at the gas lamp. You was at the gas lamp. I know where you was.
I'm about to mute you, Bub. Jesse.
I think so.
See, no, we're not doing this. Jesse, what's your experience?
Much like Carlos, I can't really pinpoint a particular experience. Like I was always kind of thought of as one of the quote unquote different ones. Even amongst my own family, sometimes jokes stuff like that. But I can't really pinpoint just having that one experience. I haven't had any real bad run-ins with cops or anything. I've never been arrested or anything like that either. I've hung around with thugs and drug dealers or the gangbangers and stuff like that, but they kind of, these are family and friends of mine. So I kind of, I saw it happen. I was around it, but I was never really of that lifestyle. I mean, they knew I can get down, but came down to it. But I wasn't the kind of person who was going to like look for trouble and be in it because my mama, she was, I feared my mom, so I was like, I didn't get in trouble like that.
She wasn't having it.
Yes,
Right.
I was trying to, crime stuff like that. I wasn't really caught on a whole lot of stuff. So I can't really say I had a really bad experience. Just had nothing pivotal that kind of stands out in my mind, I should say, in regards to your question. So
it's okay.
Not yet, at least. Thank God it's been that way.
What about you, Tim? Focus.
Well, I was listening to everybody's. So, like a lot of the guys, I'm from Memphis. So, we get a lot of bad rap because Martin Luther King was killed there. And ironically, I have not had a lot of direct nigga this, nigga that, because Memphis is like 85% black. So I had white people in the city of Memphis are the minority. So it's not like a lot of other cities where a lot of white influence, but it's a little bit, once you go that county line, something totally different. But the city of Memphis is super black. So I never really saw a lot of direct. Now, what I did see is indirect racism to me, which is worse. I'd rather a nigga call me nigga to my face than the hidden racism, where like you go to a restaurant and they put you first of all, you go to a restaurant and then they make you wait an hour. And it's like, why are these people going in before me? Oh, they had reservations, like, okay. And then they finally get to you. They put you way in the back by the bathroom or the kitchen. Like, well, and they pass all these other places up, stuff like that. Or when they finally come to you to the restaurant, they don't give you no service for like 20 minutes and stuff like that. Or when I have been pulled over for police, usually I get pulled over, I'm doing some dirt, but it ain't the level of scrutiny that they are giving me. I won't say, I don't like to say, they never say nigger, but you kind of get the feeling that the level of scrutiny they're giving,
is
I
there.
doubt if I was white, I would get the same treatment. But I'll say one thing, we'll say this one thing. It's a show called The 13th Amendment on Netflix. And one of the things that they were telling you, I watched it before, but I was watching it again, that 97% of black inmates don't go to trial. And they don't go to trial because they end up taking the plea bargain. And they end up taking the plea bargain because the public defender's garbage and trash. They don't know they're not educated on the criminal justice system. So they end up taking the plea bargain when if they would have went to court, they probably got thrown out. But they end up taking a horrible ass deal. Carlos, you disagree with what I'm saying?
I kind of disagree with some of what you're saying, only because, I mean, I've been in the trenches for about 20 years. And for a good portion of that, I worked as a public defender. And they get a bad rap. Now, I trust and believe, I understand that, you know, people feel like you get what you pay for. And if you're only paying, you know, no money or $50 for your representation.
They overwork more so than bad.
I agree, but here's the thing. If you have a public defender, you have an expert in criminal defense. You don't have, because there was a time where they would appoint an oil and gas lawyer or a personal injury lawyer to represent you in your murder case. And then, yeah, you go into jail. I've seen it happen. We've had cases here in Shreveport that had to come back because lawyers who were not equipped at all to take care of these cases were representing folks and having them sent away for life. So, you know, I get a little sensitive when it comes to public defenders because, again, you have somebody who's in the courtroom every day dealing with the police, dealing with the judge, dealing with the prosecutors. They know the ins and outs, and they are doing what they can to ensure that you have adequate representation. Now, and sometimes folks will tell you, well, I got a bad deal and I should have taken the trial. But if you have 3 felonies and you looking at possibly going to jail for 15 years, but I can work you a deal for 5, but you want to go home because you want to go see your kids for Christmas, I mean, what am I supposed to do? I'm working out the best deal possible for you, but unless I'm getting you to go home, you're not happy. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into the representation in the criminal case, and trust me, I know that, you know, the system is designed to keep you under. And I always tell folks that when you are accused of a crime, everything that happens in the process is meant to find you guilty. So even though the law says that you're presumed innocent, everything that's all the mechanisms that are put in place are to find you guilty. So you're fighting an uphill battle. It's unfortunate that sometimes we get the raw deals, but I believe, at least in my experience, more times than not, these lawyers are working to try to do the best with the circumstances that were sometimes given. So, yeah, so I disagree with you in some respects, but I do understand the perspective that you're coming from.
But before you say anything, before you say anything,
I'm gonna mute myself.
Yes, I want to get Mook and Roosta, because Roosta is biting at the bit. Do you hear me? But I want to get Roosta and Mook to give their experiences, and then we're going to try to close this out. Go ahead, Mook.
I was gonna say Rooster can go first.
Mook, what'd I just say?
Roger that. Look.
Thank you.
I don't really
strong armor, y'all.
I got being a heavy melanated brother, I've had plenty
experiences,
if not too many experiences with the idealism of racism. I think the one that stood out the most, because I was sitting there listening to everybody and thinking about what's happened that was like stood out. It was the most embarrassing and the most. I literally had a Roots moment in high school. My mom, I went to HISD most of my life, all the way up to high school. So I was a HISD kid. My Omi actually worked at A-Leaf Elsick Middle School or A-Leaf Elsick High School. She wanted me to go there instead of going to Westbury. And when we got there, the Central building, there was this Caucasian lady that worked there. And I guess she knew my mom. She was asking her, she was like, "Oh, was this your son you were talking about?" My mom was like, "Yeah, this is my son." And, they were making small talk. I don't get involved with women when they have small talk. So I just let them do their thing. And she handed my mom the registration card. And I took the registration card from her. And she was like, "Oh, excuse me." I was like, "No, you fine. Y'all continue talking." And when I filled out the registration card and I gave it back to her, she said, "So what's your name?" And I said, "My name is Muqaddim." She said, "Well, we can't pronounce that around here. Your name Mike." And she straight up roots me in front of my mom. And before I said something, my mama grabbed me so hard. Like she squeezed me. And she told me when we got in the car, "I'm glad that you understood that I need this job, Muqaddim." But I told her right there and then, I said, "I'm going to make them pay for these 4 years." I said, "You got me here for 4 years, I'm going to make you pay. I'm going to make everybody pay because my name ain't Mike." And on every discipline referral that I got from A-Leaf Elsick High School, it says Mike Naseer on it. And I never went to the principal's office. I never responded to them. I was walking down the hallway. "Mike, come here." My name's not Mike. "Your name is what I said your name is." I said, "Well, we can go out and we can have a nice discussion about it using our fists, because that's not my name." But it's been like I've been accosted by the police for no reason. We were going to a step show at TSU, and before that, Denny's was there right there on OST.
Mm-hmm.
There was an empty lot right there, and our car broke down. 4 police officers pulled up because a brother supposed to be on neighborhood watch snitched on us. Said that we was out there trying to trap in a broken car in front of anyway. They hog-tied us, beat our asses. Pardon my French. It's always like, if you melanated in this country, you have a horror story. And that's sad to say, but it is what it is. It's gonna be either somebody's gonna get tired of the Pharaoh's whip. And then I hate to say it, it's gonna turn out the way it's gonna turn out, because instead of sitting down and actually trying to iron out unnecessary differences caused by classism, racism, all these isms by themselves are cancerous to any society. You have all this stuff going on, and it's going to sort itself out the way it's going to sort itself out, because everything happens for a reason. And yeah, there's been a lot of racist things that's happening, even in the Navy with Anthony. Bro, in the Navy, they call you by your last name. They always, "Hey, yeah, how you doing, Naseer?" My first day on the ship, my first class petty officer, who was a white man, walked up to my rack, and I just flew to Japan. It was like a 27-hour trip. I was tired. I was in my rack. I wanted to just go to sleep. I woke up in the morning. This white man came to my rack and was like, "Good morning, nigga." And I must have drop kicked him in his forehead so quick, because I was raised, if you give them that opportunity, they gonna keep taking it. No, you're not finna play with me like that. And it's people, certain people behave different ways, but it's all about what you're gonna take and what you tolerate. And it does have a lot to do with being a man, but it also has a lot to do with having self-respect as a human being. Do you have that level of self-respect and esteem and love of self to stand up for yourself? Because if somebody sees that they can take advantage of that situation, you give them an inch, you might end up in the grave.
All right.
Stay on your P's.
Roosta, I'm gonna give you a few minutes, because I want to really close this out so y'all all can get some rest. So go ahead and tell me your experience. I apologize.
You know what I'm saying? me being a fairly tall, kind of husky black guy, there's been many situations. But it really started, I mean, I think it started when I was in elementary school. And we were going to this magnet school in the ship channel. It was called People and Places, where you go and you learn about the ins and outs of the ship channel and how commerce works and whatnot. But anyway, I was kind of excited to be there. But as I'm walking towards the first classroom, white teacher stops me at the door and says that I'm walking funny. And I'm like, how do you walk funny? You know what I'm saying? And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I mean, no big, and she was like, really just, I mean, being a Karen, before the term even came into prominence or whatever. But I came back, at the end of the day, the other students couldn't wait to tell, the teacher that the smartest kid in school got stopped at the door. And so I get punished for that shit. And I'm like, how do you get punished for walking wrong? But that wasn't even the worst. The worst one came in later in life when I was working at United Healthcare, and one of my colleagues came to me and he was like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's black chick that worked there. And he was like, man, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but she been walking around telling everybody that you're like this, pedophile, serial rapist, stalker, all kind of, all just every derogatory thing that she could probably, that she could make up, to say about me. And that kind of fucked me up because
language.
Number one, number one, we both black, and number two, I mean, I'm one of the most. I try to be one of the most approachable people at the job. I mean, I come in, I'm cool, I'm good with everybody. So that in that situation right there, that really did something to my psyche. But yeah, it's been a rough. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You start to, it starts to affect how you move, And for me, the thing that I experience, like if I go to a restaurant and they're not giving me the type of service that I feel that they would give another culture, well then, okay, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna figure out how to fix this food so I don't have to go out now. I don't have to experience this ill treatment that I'm getting. You know what I'm saying? That's how I started on my whole chef journey, and then it just went on from there. Any other thing that I might experience, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure out how to work around you so that I don't have to deal with your ignorance, basically.
Right.
And that's just how I see it. It's bottom line. Even as near as me going to like a high-end leather shop and I'm getting the third degree. Okay, well, it ain't like y'all on the motherfuckers. I mean, people that can make leather. So I go and I start figuring out how to do that, and it just goes on and on. So I mean, in that instance, I try to take a negative and turn it into a positive because it turns into more things that I can do myself. And that's just me, in a nutshell.
I know. It just saddens me that we all have these stories and we all have these experiences and that we're so numb to it. And I just really feel that we're at the moment in time where I will say that people will be listening and you have more people trying to figure out, what should I read? What shall I do? How can I help? And I just feel that we need to have these conversations more and more at the end of the day, when we say things and we raise our voices, for the longest, up until about 3 weeks ago, we were told to be quiet, get over it. So what has changed in 3 weeks? Nothing. And that's the long and short of it. It hasn't changed. But now, because they don't want to be excluded or canceled, people want to listen. But I feel that the more we have these conversations with people who look like us and bring light to these experiences, hopefully we can be more unified in what we're trying to do and find a true agenda and move forward. I do want to say, I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing and talking to me. This is the first virtual town hall that I'm doing. I had planned on doing this face-to-face until COVID happened, and hopefully it'll get better and much more organized, but this will be a continuing uncomfortable conversation situation that we'll have. I know it's late, and I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for giving me your time and your attention. I really do appreciate it, and I acknowledge and I appreciate all of you for who you are and what you mean to me, and know that you are loved and respected. And I hope you have